Welcome to Accessibility Now, the podcast produced by the statewide Independent Living Council of Georgia. In this episode, we're going to check in with the statewide Independent Living Council staff, and they're going to reflect back on 2024, share their thoughts on the year in the independent living movement, and also look forward to what's ahead for 2025. Our first guest, Jordan Hall, shares her work on advancing microtransit models and improving accessibility across Georgia, laying the groundwork for a more equitable transportation system.
We've really been working on trying to get the centers to transition to advocating for more microtransit models versus paratransit models, because it would just give more equitable access and it would be a real-time performance. So with microtransit, trips are able to be booked within like 15 minutes of the ride.
Mhm. So kind of more like an Uber type thing.
Yes, but of course accessible.
Mhm.
And so one of the things we've really worked on this year legislatively is kind of just developing the mobility barriers overview, where we just talk about the barriers that not only occur in a lack of access to transit, but a lack of accessibility related to infrastructure as well, just like in a concise format so that we can provide that to legislators. But currently in Georgia, the legislators are primarily focused on freight and logistics. So that makes it more difficult to really get a deep dive into transit. But one of the ways that the centers have access to do that is by contacting their MPO. This year was a year of developing transit plans throughout the state. And so there was a trial period where they allowed you to submit project applications. And so a lot of the regional MPOs, metropolitan planning organizations, those projects and asked for feedback from different communities. So I was on committees for that with the Atlanta Regional Commission, but I also found a tip solicitation for every SIL and was able to send that to them as well, so that hopefully they would get a seat at the table to give feedback on what would work for them locally as well. Something that I'm really excited about is the conference that I'm going to tomorrow. I actually got reelected to the Georgia Transit Association Board, which has been really, really good. They have a whole legislation subcommittee, and so they will do a transit day at the Capitol. So I'm looking forward to that.
Next, Becky Tuttle reflects on the historic statewide expansion of services and the ongoing fight for accessible housing in our communities.
Well, the biggest thing I think we saw was the expansion of services across the state and the expansion of center services. That was a big deal this year. Now the whole state is covered with at least information and referral services, which that has never happened before in this state. So that was the most exciting thing, I think, that happened this year.
And you've been an advocate for a long time. Have you seen progress in terms of, state support, general awareness from when
Yeah.
you started to now?
Yeah, I think there's more of an awareness of who we are in the state, compared to what it used to be. And I think that a lot of that lends itself to Shelley, being so in the community and being the face of the silk. Um, and the whole doing um our annual report that we do each year and getting that out to people. I think that I definitely think that has helped put us on the map,
Oh,
so
that's
to
great
speak.
to hear. Yeah, absolutely. So, and how long have you been an advocate?
Over 30 years.
Wow, that's a
Yeah,
long time. So
it's a long time.
you've seen a lot of things over that period.
It's a lot of things, but then I think we're still fighting the same fight that we were 30 years ago, and it's very frustrating. Um, but I mean, you take small victories, and be thankful for those. No, it's been a good year for the SIL. We've seen an increase in funding, which is always a positive thing. We've been able to hire a couple people to do more advocacy in the community on some very important issues, including housing, which it's in Atlanta. You know that affordable, accessible housing is a real um, need in our community. And in Atlanta, we tend to build up instead of wide. And so affordable, accessible housing is really a scarcity in our community, and we need to be out there advocating for more accessible housing.
Anything on the horizon that you're looking forward to or that you see, in this coming year or sometime in the future that you, yeah, that you're looking forward to, basically?
Well, we always got the new legislative session coming up in January, so that'll be interesting. I believe Shelley's going to be working on um, employment issues mainly this year. So it'll be interesting to see what we get if we get anything off the ground with that this year.
Victor McRae, a housing policy coordinator and advocate, now discusses his efforts to address the emergency housing challenges and his vision for an innovative referral program in 2025.
This year has been really wonderful. I've been at the organization for a full year now, rounding out. Started in October of 2023, and we've been able to accomplish a whole bunch. Recently, I just got back from the National Federation for the Blind of Georgia, and they were doing their annual events, bringing all the visually impaired people together and talking about different resources and things to keep in mind for that community. Myself being visually impaired with a macular degeneration disease, it was very interesting to get to meet other people with visual impairments and inform them of the resources that their SILs can provide to them. Because not a lot of people, if you're not in the nonprofit space, know about all the organizations that are out there. So I was able to connect them with whichever one from Georgia that is in their service area. Out of Georgia, we have 9 SILs and a few satellite offices. So getting them in contact with the people that can provide them resources was wonderful. There we were able to participate with 2 of our SILs, and they were able to talk about some of the programs they do, such as aquaponics, pardon me, the video game nights, the community nights every Friday at some of the other organizations. And yeah, that was a fantastic experience. Earlier in the year, around June, July, we went up to the NICL events, the National Council for Independent Living up in Washington, D.C. And there, me and some of my fellow counterparts at the Georgia branch were able to speak with our Georgia representatives and get them the information they needed to make some conscious decisions, keeping the disability community in mind. Those decisions may relate to housing in the future. They may relate to further education needs. We just wanted to provide them with the information, like the housing reports that you can find on our SILC website that was done by myself and my team.
So, since you mentioned housing specifically, what have you seen
in 2024 related specifically to housing, and what are you kind of looking for, hoping for in 2025?
Well, first and foremost, the biggest thing that came out of this year, and it was recent, was Hurricane Helene and some of the other storms that have really affected the South. A lot of people focus on Asheville, North Carolina, but there was a lot of damage done to housing down here in Georgia, whether that be structural issues due to tree falling, whether that be storm damage, and actually being at the National Federation for the Blind conference at Augusta filled because, they got hit pretty dang hard. So situations like that where you want to be aware of the resources that are out there, whether that's FEMA, GEMA, the Red Cross services, we were basically directing people wherever we could to get them the help they needed. So I think emergency services definitely caught a spotlight, some good, some bad. That's just the name of the game here. And I hope in the future that this experience will allow the country to focus on emergency services because they're so needed, especially when it comes to shelter. When it comes to goals for 2025, we have session coming up in January. Myself and the other members of the SILC team are going to be going to session, meeting with our legislators, and speaking to them on issues that they need to consider, or at least be aware of. One is a few bills that are being reintroduced this session that SILC and other advocacy groups out there like Georgia Acts are going to be fighting for and supporting. So I highly recommend y'all be aware to keep your eyes on what's going on in Georgia session. It's not all about what's happening at a federal level. We have to be aware of what's happening at a state level as well. Really, just at the end of the day, and this is my message to everyone I meet at conferences. It's always good to try your best to get involved. If you can't donate your finances, because Lord knows everything is expensive nowadays, it's always good to figure out how you can donate your time, whether that be reaching out to a nonprofit that's close to your heart, getting involved with your community centers. That's just a message I have for everybody at the end of the day. One aspect that I will bring up when it comes to housing and what we are excited for at SILC is we're trying to partner with a few developers to create a referral program for individuals with disabilities who are looking for more affordable options. There are ways to find those options out there, but a lot of times they are very cloistered in the larger cities. And rural areas don't get the same amount of choice. So we're doing our best to try and make those connections with developers and refer individuals who are looking for those areas. So that's something that we're excited to get started in 2025 specifically.
Now we're going to hear from Esther, who reflects introspectively, highlighting the systemic barriers faced by people with disabilities and her hopes for transformative growth in the coming years.
2024 has been a lot of learning. I was put into understanding all the systems that make up independent living, from the agencies, every system, including the individual. What is independent living? Everything that it entails, and understanding and being seen past the label. It helped me tweak the questions that I was asking for a deeper understanding of what is independent living like, and how does the person see themselves through all of those systems' eyes, basically. And all of those systems, how they push the person to see their barriers as well as their bridges. And then I began really learning about enable work. What does it look like, and how is it, and what is it? What do we want it to look like? And understanding again those systems that were put into place to initially bring forth inclusivity. However, now they're somewhat the same systems that have become barriers.
So, what are you looking forward to in 2025 in terms of the independent living movement?
Oh, wow. Again, expansion. Because as we are growing and we're seeing the needs, we're seeing where policies need to change. We're seeing where we're seeing where it's a soul revolution in a way. With if we're growing, that means everything around us has to grow too, or it's gonna be chaotic. It's gonna be imbalanced. And now we're balancing out. We have to see where change is needed, and the change begins with us as individuals. Like the change begins with us. And as soon as we see especially for enabled work, looking forward to individuals being able to keep their personal care as well as get paid to it. That's so not right. It's so new, it's so limited. It's a limited viewpoint, and I'm looking forward to 2025 and beyond being more open-minded and less limited, more bridges versus barriers. I'm excited about it.
And finally, Shelley Simmons, our director, a passionate leader in the independent living movement, shares her milestones of 2024 and her bold aspirations for a stronger, more connected community in 2025.
The independent living movement in Georgia for 2024, I believe it has been progress. I believe that one, there was, of course, the big thing within a community is the additional funding from the state, which has allowed us to provide full coverage of the state, but only in information and referral. And so we're still working on doing our outreach to let these 27 counties that were not covered, to let them know that we're out there and able to provide information and access to resources. Of course, the goal is to continue to grow and hopefully be able to set up satellite offices in the surrounding counties, 27 counties. And so slowly but surely, we're making progress. We have been advocating, and when I say we, the SILCGA office and the network, which consists of the Centers for Independent Living, been advocating ever since I've been around, and that's been 2017. So for 7 years, and finally, I'm thankful that the state has been doing well enough to be able to put the additional funding in our network and within our community. And so I'm excited about that. Seeing additional pay for caregivers, and at least 80% of the funding that has been provided by the General Assembly, 80% is supposed to go to the actual caregiver. So hopefully that will help reduce turnaround, provide some stability for individuals who are receiving home and community-based services. And so I think that's very important to take care of the people that take care of individuals with disabilities. So kind of a well-rounded component to what it looks like for individuals within the community, disability community for this year. So I think those are two big takeaways. There has been additional waivers that individuals can be eligible for. And in particular, the new options are the now or comp waivers for individuals with DD or ID, and I should say developmental disability and intellectual disability. And so although we still have a huge wait list, anytime that you can have additional waivers for individuals makes a difference. So there were, I believe, over 100 waivers that were assigned during session this year. So that's always a plus to have people come out into the community. So little by little, I think we're chipping away, and that's what we can ask for. There's progress. And so we just have to take it as we receive it and be thankful for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that was a really good overview. And I guess my next question is, what are you aspiring to, / looking forward to about 2025?
Well, the beginning of the year is always exciting. Right now, things are, although still busy, I think we're all kind of out of gas a little bit. So we'll look forward to the break that's coming up and be able to come back full of energy and ready to tackle the issues and really start to address our state plan goals and objectives. What is going to be exciting for us, of course, when we start 2025 off, is that we will immediately go into session. And we're going to be advocating for our Enable Work program and hopefully be able to get some policy change and at least be able to have individuals listen to some of the issues that people with disabilities face when it comes to employment. And so we're hoping to be able to address some of these concerns during session and even before. That's going to be a huge thing for us. Of course, we're going to advocate for additional funding for our home access program. We had a very successful year. This year, actually, the funding that was allotted was actually gone in about a month and a half. So
Wow.
It's a good thing, bad thing. Good thing that we had the funding to address some of the issues. The bad thing is that the money just ran out so quickly and that we're having to wait a whole nother year before we get some funding. So we're going to be advocating for additional funding. And I think hopefully once they see that the money went so quickly, that they will be more apt to provide additional funding. And it's for a great cause to make sure that people can remain safely in their home. So we should see about that. We are anticipating the opening of Phoenix Station. And this is the housing development with one of our partners, LDG. And we're looking forward to the opening of that development within the next couple of months. It has been a long process, and there were some setbacks with building, but thankfully, we believe that we are turning the corner with that and being able to get some of the members of within our community into that building. And so we're excited about that. So a lot of things coming up, and some of our usual things we're going to be having are Independent Living Day at the Capitol, and stay tuned for that, for details about that. And just doing what we can to see how we can address the needs of people with disabilities. So there's always something new every day.
That's it for our 2024 year in review and our look ahead to 2025. Thank you as always for joining us. I'm Matt Shedd, and remember, a Georgia that includes everyone is better for all of us.